Okay. Welcome to this portion of the FET training. This webinar is a continuation of the brief online introduction on evaluation. Now, did you two get a chance to do that?
Yes.
9 slides is all it was, about 9 slides. Allison?
Oh, I haven't been here.
Okay. Well, just to know that you can go back and look at those 9 slides because I'm picking up from where they left off, okay?
Okay, perfect.
Great.
Today, we're going to work with and discuss the specific levels of evaluation, and those 9 slides just sort of introduce the idea of evaluation. With just the 3 of us on here so far, I was going to say mute your phones, but you probably don't have to if your offices are quiet. We do have some background construction going on outside and inside the building, so if we get interrupted by that, bear with us, and our apologies in advance, okay?
Okay, fine.
All righty. Well, where do I click? Oh, yeah. There? No, I want to go forward. Go forward. All right. There we go. This is the training outcome today. You're going to have an opportunity to learn about and practice classifying evaluation inquiries into the 4 levels of evaluation. Also, feel free to access the identified pages in your FET handout if you happen to have them. If you don't, definitely go back and check those pages after we're done with this call. Okie dokie?
Yep.
All right. Here's the roadmap. Just take a moment and read this. All right. Prior to logging on to this webinar online, you were introduced to the purpose of evaluation. You reviewed some pros and cons of conducting evaluation, and we had asked you to post 2 or 3 ways that you collect evaluation data that you've used in a recent training or have experienced as a participant in workshops that you've attended. Also, if you remember, since it was just this past Saturday in our face-to-face training, we discussed the many pros and cons around evaluation and you experienced the great debate. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, yes.
Yay. So these activities that we've done set the groundwork for our webinar today as we move forward, and we're actually going to talk about the 4 levels of evaluation. I know that, well, let me just say, is it any big mystery as to the purpose of evaluation for either of you?
No.
Allison?
No.
Okay. And the pros and cons, I think we made that pretty clear with our debate. And again, go back to those slides and just review them. And then ways of collecting data evaluation, we briefed that. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. So let's just move on to talking about it. Here are the 4 levels of evaluation listed below, and I'm going to ask you to take a look at your screen, and then these are not in the correct order. There are 4 levels, and of course, each level gets a little bit more intricate in terms of what it's asking for. So what do you think should be the very first one? What is the first level of evaluation? The simplest. It's the easiest to obtain and the least connected to content.
Participant reaction.
Action.
Yep, that's exactly right, participant reaction. So after participant reaction, what do you think would be the second one, which is a little more connected to the content in terms of what they got from your workshop?
Participant learning.
Yes.
Participant learning. So number 1 would be participant reaction, and level 2 would be participant learning. And level number 3, what do you think level number 3 would be?
Behavior change.
All right, you're exactly right. Behavior change certainly has to come before level 4. And what is level 4?
The results of that change.
Results and impact. Sometimes people mess that up, but you have to have the change in behavior, and it has to become, you know, a continuous, consistent part of what you're doing in order for that change of behavior to cause some kind of result or impact on the children and families in the program that you're serving. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
All right. So here is the exact level for level 1, 2, 3, and 4. Participant reaction, participant learning, behavior change, and then results and impact. I'm going to take one at a time and talk a little bit about them. Oops, let's go back. so that you get an idea of what it's really all about. At level 1, the trainer is seeking feedback on the training session itself. An example of that would be, what did you enjoy about the training session? You've read that kind of an evaluation question as a participant, haven't you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and you probably even used that in an evaluation. Another one might be, were you satisfied with the support materials? Did you think the trainer was effective? So the whole idea behind this is that you're finding out what they liked about the training or perhaps didn't like, and you're asking them for sometimes a narrative or a rating scale. You've seen the rating scales on a scale of 1 to 5, that sort of thing, right? Sometimes it's open-ended, sometimes it's a yes, no. Does that all sound familiar to you in evaluation? All right, level 1. Any questions about level 1?
No.
All right. Level 2 is participant learning. This is where they are asking the participants what they learned about. Not necessarily learned, meaning going to take it with them, but what did they learn about while they were there? We talked a little bit about that on Monday. You might ask them to write down 3 things they learned, or you might give a pre or post, you know, on the content absorption sort of thing. What did you know ahead of time? What do you know now? And it's a way that you're trying to find out what do they remember from what we just did. The other key thing about level 1 and level 2, when are those questions asked of the participants?
At the end of the training itself.
Right at the end of training. The participants are still there, they haven't run out the door yet, and you're getting that kind of information. So level 3 is behavior change. Can you ask questions about behavior change at the end of the workshop?
No.
Why not?
Because you don't know that that behavior has really taken place. That has to be measured in the workplace.
That's absolutely right. They don't even know if it's taken place yet. They may like it, embrace it, feel passionate about it, but until they actually do something different in their behavior and it's measured, we don't know that that's happening. So you're exactly right. This happens, and we'll go more into this when we get when you get on Module 4, but it's usually 4 to 8 weeks after the training, and that has a lot to do with the content you covered, what you're asking them to do. Sometimes within 4 weeks you know that behavior should or could be changing. Sometimes it takes a couple of months to really get something a little more consistent, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right? And some ways that you might do this is you might do pre-post. You ask something up ahead of time before the training or when training just starts, and then you again ask about 4 weeks later, 6 weeks later. It might be a list. You might do pre-post photos. You might do pre-post observation. But what's sort of the key phrase that I'm using here in behavior change for measuring? What term am I using that suggests you're going to measure something, but you've got to have the stuff to measure it against?
Pre and post. I mean, you've got
pre and the post.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's when we talk about evaluation starts way back in the needs assessment portion. Remember Christine saying that on Saturday? That's very critical. Starts way back there because you got to know what you're going to measure after the training, and in order to measure it and see growth, you're going to have to find a way to get that baseline before the training or the day of the training, that sort of thing. Does that make sense to you guys?
Absolutely.
It's a little more abstract for us because a lot of us are not doing this. And our challenge, my challenge and passion for this part of the training is that you can do this. And if you do this, and I talked about this on Saturday, when you can show behavior change and show measurement results, they're going to want you back as a trainer. Then we take this one step further to results and impact. So once you've measured the change in behavior, sometime after that, you should also be able to measure something in addition to that, and if they have changed their behavior, there should be an impact on the children and the families and the programs, depending on what your focus is, right?
Right.
And to get that impact, there now you've got a window of about, I'm going to say again, 3 to 6 months or 2 to 5 months. It really, again, depends on the topic and what they're doing and how much time you think it's going to take to change. Do those timelines make sense to you, both for behavior change and results and impact?
Yes.
Both of you?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, more people are on. Hello, everybody.
Hello. Hello.
Terrific. Glad to have you here. All right. So around 3 to 6 months after the training is when you're going to actually measure for results and impact. Again, you need to know what should be the results and impact you're looking for, just like the pre and post of behavior change. Well, what are children doing now, and what are they doing 6 months later that shows that there's been an impact? You have to identify that. Does that make sense? In other words, if children are not, let's take our literacy topic. If children keep walking away when you're reading a story to them, you want to track that. You want to track a couple of children as you're reading a book. Let's just say, for instance, how many times they leave you while you're reading, okay? Those same 2 children, 4 months later, after the teacher's had a chance to change the way she's reading the story, then you'll track those same children reading a story and tally how many times they leave the teacher while she's reading. Do you see how then you can show results?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got something you're looking at for the teacher, for her behavior change, and then something you're looking at for the children to see the change in the results and the impact that that change is making. Any questions? Anybody? All right, well, the bulk of this time together today is we are going to start doing a poll, and we're going to do, I think if it goes smoothly like we think it's going to, we're going to do 19 polls. Basically, what you're going to do is read a question that comes up, and then you're going to decide is it a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, or a level 4 inquiry or question, evaluation question, okay? And you just poll. You just click on what you think it is. Now, before we start, if I were to ask a question and said, what did you like best about this training? What level question is that?
1.
A level 1. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to click on the poll. Patty, do I have to tell them anything else about the poll? All right. So do you take over now? All right. So here we go. Just be ready to do your polls. Is everybody ready to go?
I have a question. It's Laura.
Okay, Laura.
I am on the phone part of it, so I have nothing in front of me that I'm seeing. Since I'm doing
you're just going to have to listen, and this part, well, you'll hear the questions. I'll read them out loud, but, and if you want to mark it on the paper just for your own satisfaction, you know, you can do that, okay?
Okay. Okay.
All right. Just mark levels. You won't get the questions memorized or anything. That's all right. Here we go. Was an appropriate amount of content covered during this training? Poll. Do I do that? You do.
I'll do it all.
Okay.
Yay!
Okay, level 1.
Yeah.
You want to next?
I just want to keep going.
Okay.
Would you recommend the training to your colleagues? Was the content understandable? The percent of decrease in the use of single answer questions when talking with children at choice time. What is the percent of decrease? Describe the difference between verbal and nonverbal adult-child interaction strategies. What did you like best about your training experience today? Was this training an effective use of your time? Write 3 open-ended questions you might ask a child while they are engaged in play. On a scale of 1 to 5, rate the content knowledge displayed by the trainer. Tape and tally yes, no, single answer, and open-ended questions used while reading a book to children, that would be. Please rate the overall value of the training to you on a scale of 1 to 5. What are 3 changes you will make based on the principles of the learning environment? Increase score results on the ITER, ECHRS, or class assessment. List the 3 steps an adult should use to introduce a child-initiated small group time. Was there enough time allowed for questions to be asked and answered? List types and amounts of materials in the areas you identified in the pre-training area inventory. What information is unclear to you regarding today's topic? Was the pace of the training appropriate? Are you motivated to attend a follow-up session on this topic? Are we done? Yeah. Okay, we're done with that. That worked beautifully. Okay. All righty. You completed the poll. Do you have any questions about anything during the poll? Are you all there?
We're here, or I'm
Okay.
here.
There were a couple of items. One I wrote down in particular that was a sort of a split, but the others you got exactly right. And since many of you did not, were not unable to get on and do the work that we asked you to, I took questions from the first group and put them in here for you so that we can continue on and see the results of what we just did. So, oops, I didn't want to go there. I want you to put up the,
They don't have it.
they can see it. All right. Do you see the results of the poll? Can you see where all the questions lie?
No.
No.
There should be a box now that it says something about an attachment has been uploaded.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
There, you can download the results.
Do we have to save it?
You can save it to your computer, yes. It's a PDF handout.
When you all get the graph pulled up and can see it on your computer, let me know. We'll give you time to do that. Do you have it pulled up yet?
Yeah, mine says it can't be downloaded.
Okay, if you can see it, I'm on the part where it says, I just want you to look at the results. We're going to ask a few questions about the results, but you can see the graph now, right? Those of you who pulled it up?
This is Samuel.
What? There it is. Oh. If you can't see it on your attachment, can you see your screen and see it now?
Yes.
Okay. So all of the questions that I asked you are questions that came in from folks. Now take a look at this graph, level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. What does the graph tell us about ourselves and evaluation?
That we're going to be doing a whole lot of level 1. There's more material there, but the change level is, you know, if you get one major change that we can measure, it's going to be what we're looking for.
Right, but right now, based on this graph, what are we pretty good at looking for in terms of evaluation?
Level 1.
Level 1 and? How about level 2?
Some in level 2, I think.
Yeah. There were quite a few questions in level 2 as well. So level 1 especially, we're real good at asking participant reaction questions, and we're actually pretty good at asking participant learning questions. What did you get out of this? You know, can you name these kinds of things and that sort of stuff. We probably asked less of those. You can see that when people sent in their questions, they sent in the predominance of level 1 questions. But level 2 questions were also represented. So from that, do we need to spend a lot of time learning more about level 1 and level 2 evaluation?
No.
No. That's what we do at the end of training. Most of us are pretty proficient in it. It's happening on a consistent basis. Where we are really, really falling short is level 3 and level 4 evaluation. Why do you think that happens?
Because that takes place after the training, and we're not really good on follow-up.
All right, exactly. It takes place after, and I'm kind of glad that you said we aren't so good at follow-up. Follow-up is actually a part of the whole training process, but many trainers don't include it in. And do you remember me talking to you on Saturday about if you were actually doing follow-up and able to measure something? You know, if you're training less content, it's less for the participants to have to do. They're more apt to do it. Easier to measure, then you can show the director this growth, right?
Absolutely.
So this is just more fodder to make it so critical that you start looking as trainers at doing level 3 and level 4 evaluation. And the hardest part about it, or the part that's going to get you over the hump, is way back again at the very beginning of training. What do you want to see teachers doing differently? And you're not going to be measuring 8 different things. You're going to measure 1 or 2 things at the most. What am I going to measure before the training? What am I going to measure after the training of what the trainer or the teacher needs to do? And then what am I looking at in children before the training and after training that should change? And if you can identify that up front, following up with it afterwards is not going to be that difficult, okay? All right. So the next question is, whoops, go back, Sue. Why does this happen? I think you actually answered that. Why? Well, let me ask you, why don't we pay more attention to level 3 and level 4 evaluation? There's more than one reason. Are you there?
I'm here.
Why don't we pay attention to level 3 and level 4? What are some of the reasons we kind of were weak there? Number one, you said because we aren't good at follow-up.
Absolutely.
How well do people understand how to do level 3 and level 4 evaluation?
I think of the 4, of course, since they're increasing in difficulty and complexity. I think that's part of the issue.
Okay.
And then again, it's the having to come back and do follow-up on, and it may not have to be difficult, developing those simple tools to use, whether, it's something that you send out or you actually go and do, or offer them a sheet that they can complete themselves. I think we're just poor in making sure that that gets done.
Okay. All right. So what we want to do is really pay attention to this because this is really critical information. Then finally, oops, I'm going the wrong way, I guess. Let's go this way. What are the most critical levels of evaluation and why?
The plain old truth is that in terms of evaluation, ultimately, level 3 and level 4 are probably the most important.
They're the most critical. They are.
Because
Why?
they measure what change takes place. That important thing we started right off the bat talking about is that actually determines what kind of change does take place.
That's right. Most funders, most directors, quite frankly, don't care a whole lot about what people thought about the training, and they care about what they learned, but they don't know what they learned until they actually go back and do something with it. So it's kind of like a fallacy when we say, what did you learn? I like to say, what did you learn about? Okay? Because we don't know what they learned until they go back and start that level 3, which is behavior change, right?
Right.
That's why these are critical. Exactly what you said. Funders and directors are concerned about what behavior change is taking place and how do I know it? What's happening with the children or what's happening with the families or what's happening with the program that says this was worth, my bang for the buck, okay? So you're exactly right on that. So that leads me to this. Well, I put the answers up with. I'm going to have to change that slide, aren't I? What are the implications for trainers when planning for evaluation? They're there, but it's critical. All 4 levels of evaluation are important, and when I remember the word I use, critical, they're all important, all right? Is everybody with me on that one?
Yes.
But as important as the fact that they are important, all 4 levels have to be planned for. We don't have to work and practice anymore on level 1 and level 2. We're pretty good. Maybe level 2 asking a few more key what'd you learn about questions rather than how'd you like it. That you could maybe, buff up a little bit. But the critical pieces are level 3 and 4, and you have to plan for them. You simply have to plan for them because they are so important as a follow-up to levels 1 and 2. What questions do you have about this piece of the webinar that kind of introduced us to these 4 levels and what they do, when you do it, and why you should do it? Questions or comments?
One of the interesting things is how this kind of plays into, I plan on doing some orientation training, and one of the things that we had some discussion about where I work is the carryover because of the wealth of information that comes through in orientation, and how can we go back and make sure something as simple as that 6-hour training that folks understand it, are trying to implement it, and how can we mentor or go back and check and see how much of that they actually took into the classroom. So something that simple may need to, we may be needing to do a follow-up or checking to see how many of those items, how much of that information, how much of that training is actually going on in the classroom and how well the participants understand the need for that.
Exactly right. What I would do to start is write down the 3 things you mentioned first, the 3 things you said you talked about. And then from those 3, keep it simple. Even just to start with, if you came up with one pre and post something to look at, that would be critical. The pre is so that you have the baseline, right? To each of those 3 matters. Then the post would be initially maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks after the training, after they've had a chance to do something with that orientation training. That would be the first post, level 3, all right, behavior change. And then that third item you talked about was impact. So again, what can you do up front with the folks that are going to train, and then what can you do? So you've got 2 that deal with the behavior change and 1 that deals with the impact. This is just to start with, but to keep it simple. Because you mentioned 3 things. 2 of those things had to do with the trainer and 1 had to do with the participants. So you do a pre on those 3 things and then a post on the 2 things, which would be about, 6 to 8 weeks later on the trainer, and then 3 months or 4 months later on the participants. Okay? That's how it works. That's exactly how it works. And if that, you would have some information in terms of this orientation training. Does that make sense how I explain that?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay, and if you've got questions about that, once you identify or get those 3 items written down, we can talk about it again, email me, phone, whatever, to help you think through. But that's how that would work, okay? That actually was a really good example in terms of, and it doesn't have to layer that much on to what you're already doing. Because once again, the fruits of the labor is what you end up with after you go back that 6 weeks and that 3 months later, and you've got something to measure against what you looked for before this all started with that group. And to be able to say on these 3 items, the improvement was, and you want to know something, even when you're starting out, if the improvement is 7%, 7% is better than 0%. That's what I always say. Approach it like it's 100%, almost like, wow, just by doing this one training, your people improved 7% on such and such. You see? Now, if I went and said, well, it was only a 7% growth, nobody's going to get excited. But if I say, oh my gosh, from before doing this until after doing this, and only so many weeks later or 2 months later, you have a 7% increase. Do you think that's going to get the attention of those folks?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot better than downplaying it.
That's right. Both the attention of the director and the people taking it. I am a full proponent of sending that 7% increase to the participants. You've, as a group, increased 7%. And then eventually you might start getting questions from participants about, how can I know how much I've increased personally? Then you can work with that easily, okay? All right, well, that's pretty much, I'm just going to put on this last frame, kind of wraps it up for this in terms of this 30-minute webinar, just learning about these 4 levels and what they mean. And if you've got more questions and you need to hang up now, you can always email me, you know that, or call me. And I just want to say thanks for your time, your attention, and your participation. I really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. So you've been extremely helpful.
Great. That's nice to hear. Good luck to all of you, and never hesitate to get a hold of me if you've got questions.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Okay, I feel really good about this one. It works fine like this. It's